If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. An ill-fated beginning. The troubles began before the colonists even set foot on land. Ship captain Simon Fernandez had strict orders to take the 115 settlers to Chesapeake Bay, where fertile soil and friendly tribes waited. Instead, he dumped them on Roanoke Island in July 1587 and sailed away to hunt Spanish treasure ships. The colonists found themselves stranded in exactly the wrong place. The island already carried the stench of violence from 2 years earlier. Ralph Lane's previous expedition had raided the local village and killed Chief Wingana in cold blood. The surviving Roanoke people remembered every detail of that betrayal. When John White's colonists arrived, they walked into a neighborhood that wanted them dead. But the worst disaster remained hidden in the trees themselves. Modern scientists studying ancient tree rings discovered something shocking about 1587. That summer marked the start of the most severe drought in 800 years. The Little Ice Age had triggered weather patterns that would strangle the region's rainfall until 1589. How could 115 people survive when 3 separate catastrophes struck at once? Wrong location, hostile neighbors, and a drought that would have tested any settlement. The governor's impossible choice. The colonists' demands grew more urgent as August wore on. Food supplies dropped to dangerous levels, while winter approached rapidly. John White found himself facing an impossible choice that would haunt him forever. The settlers had selected him to return to England for emergency supplies, but this meant leaving behind his own daughter, Eleanor, and granddaughter, Virginia Dare, barely a month old. The logistical problem had become critical. Any supply ships from England would sail directly to the Chesapeake Bay, their original intended destination. Since Fernandez had forced them to land at Roanoke Island instead, rescue ships would never find them here. The colonists understood this terrible reality. Without White personally advocating for their rescue in England, they faced certain death from starvation. Before his departure, White established a crucial communication system with the colonists. If they relocated while searching for better settlement sites, they would carve their destination into nearby trees. Most importantly, if they faced immediate danger or distress, they would mark a cross, a symbol, alongside any message. This simple protocol would later become the key to understanding their fate. White sailed from Roanoke on August 27, 1587, expecting to return within months with supplies and reinforcements. He reached England on November 8 and immediately reported to Sir Walter Raleigh. Neither man could imagine the 3-year delay that would prevent his return and seal the colony's mysterious disappearance. 3 years of silence. John White returned to England in November 1587, expecting to sail back within months with fresh supplies. Instead, he walked into the worst possible timing in English history. Queen Elizabeth had just received intelligence that King Philip II of Spain was assembling the largest invasion fleet ever seen. Every available English ship, no matter its size or purpose, was immediately seized for national defense. White's colonial rescue mission became impossible overnight. The Spanish Armada arrived in July 1588 with 130 warships carrying 30,000 men. Though English forces defeated this massive fleet, the victory came at enormous cost. The war continued for years afterward, making any Atlantic crossing extremely dangerous. Spanish ships still patrolled the ocean routes, attacking English vessels on sight. White spent 3 years in agony, knowing his daughter Eleanor and granddaughter Virginia faced starvation or worse, while he remained trapped in England. He wrote desperate letters to anyone with influence, but the war made colonial expeditions unthinkable. By the time Walter Raleigh finally arranged White's return voyage in March 1590, the brief rescue mission had become a recovery expedition. Even then, privateering battles and fierce storms delayed the journey for months. 7 sailors drowned during the dangerous landing attempt. When White finally reached Roanoke in August 1590, 3 full years had passed since he left his family behind. The discovery that solved nothing. When White finally stepped onto the shoreline in August 1590, he found something far worse than destruction. The settlement had been carefully dismantled, piece by piece. Houses that once sheltered families were gone, their timbers removed with precision rather than violence. The streets where children had played lay empty and silent. The colonists had transformed their home into a fortress before they left. High wooden walls now surrounded the area, built with defensive structures called flankers at the corners. This wasn't the hasty work of people fleeing in panic. Someone had planned this reconstruction carefully, taking time to create serious military protection. 2 carved messages stopped White cold. On a nearby tree, someone had cut the letters CRO into the bark. But the larger carving commanded attention. CROATOAN stood 5 feet tall on a fort post, cut in careful capital letters. White knew this word well. It named both a friendly Native American tribe and their island home near what we now call Hatteras. Most important, no cross marked either carving. Before leaving 3 years earlier, White had arranged a simple code with the colonists. If they moved by choice, they would carve their destination. If forced to leave or attacked, they would add a cross as a distress signal. The absence of that cross meant his daughter, granddaughter, and 113 others had relocated willingly to Croatoan Island. The Dare Stone's deception. Lewis Hammond thought he had struck historical gold when he kicked aside some brush near Edenton, North Carolina in 1937. The California tourist found a flat stone bearing crude but readable letters. The inscription claimed to be from Eleanor White Dare herself, describing how the colonists had moved inland where ennui, misery, and war claimed most of their lives. According to the stone, Native Americans had killed everyone except 7 survivors, including her husband Ananias and daughter Virginia. The discovery sent shockwaves through academic circles. For the first time in 350 years, someone seemed to have concrete evidence about what happened to the lost colonists. Historians at Roanoke College in Georgia immediately began studying the stone. The inscription was signed EWD and told a heartbreaking tale of survival and death in the wilderness. But Hammond's stone was just the beginning. Over the next 3 years, 47 more stones appeared across North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Each one supposedly chronicled Eleanor Dare's journey deeper into Native American territory. The stones described specific battles, named tribal leaders, and provided detailed accounts of the colonists' final years. Something felt wrong about these convenient discoveries. The timing seemed too perfect, appearing just as public interest in the lost colony reached new heights. Hidden maps and modern revelations. 4 centuries after John White last saw his colonists, modern technology began revealing what human eyes had never detected. In 2012, researchers at the British Museum applied advanced imaging to White's original coastal map from 1585. The techniques exposed something extraordinary: hidden marks made in invisible ink that had remained secret for over 400 years. The concealed symbols showed two fort locations. One sat exactly where Roanoke Island stood. The other appeared 50 miles inland to the west. Why would White hide these locations? Court records from Elizabeth's reign reveal the answer. Spanish spies regularly infiltrated English planning sessions, stealing maps and military secrets. White had deliberately obscured key locations to protect his colonists from enemy discovery. This finding changed everything investigators thought they knew about the colony. The hidden fort suggested White's people had always planned to split into multiple groups. Some would remain on Roanoke, while others traveled inland to build their permanent settlement. The city of Raleigh, mentioned in their charter. The colonists hadn't simply vanished. They had followed their original plan exactly as intended. But the most compelling evidence emerged from the beaches of Hatteras Island, where the Croatoan tribe once lived.